I turned my living room into a shop today so that I can show you guys what went wrong with this 426 stroker. All right, guys, so today we're going to be taking a look at this 426 stroker. It was built by another shop, installed in the car. The customer brought the car to me because they said it didn't even want to start. It was making all kinds of weird noises. So let's dig into it, see what the heck happened. So one of the first things I want to get a good look at is this thing made a lot of top end noises. It was cranking over for the first time according to the customer. So when I did my tear down, of course, the first thing I did was pull the heads off. And well, you can see kind of what I'm seeing here. Let's go ahead and look at the other side and see. Yep, looks like we've got little markings on each one of these pistons. Ooh, what's going on with that one? All right, let's tear this thing down and see what we got. Now, before we get too far into this, I want you guys to know this motor has been apart by me. So everything is put back together, but everything is just hand tightened as far as the rods go. All right, so here we go. Already got some scoring on the bearing there. That's not a good sign. That means things weren't very clean when they were put together. Now you're seeing me use a paper towel. You can go ahead and yell at me for the paper towel later, because all of this is just getting disassembled. It's going to be getting cleaned. I don't know if you guys can see this skirt real good, but this engine's never been ran. So there's an interesting question with this piston. Again, got some scoring on these bearings. Crank looks clean, so there's an interesting question there. That bearing just fell right out. You know, for an engine that's only got 15-20 minutes of crank time and no run time, I'm shocked at the condition of these bearings and pistons, that's for sure. All right, so while you're watching me take these bolts out of these connecting rods, let's go over the plans for what we're doing here. This is a recycle build, and the reason I call it a recycle build is customer already spent good money on parts. No point in replacing those if we don't have to. So what we're going to do is we are going to be reusing the crankshaft, the billet main caps that are in this stroker motor. We're going to be reusing the ARP studs. We're going to be reusing as much as we can and transferring it over to a 2020 BGE block 6.2 with Hellcat heads. We're scrapping the turbo kit and we're going with a 3.8 liter Whipple. So stay tuned for those parts of the build. I'm going to be doing this in a series. All right, guys, so I want you to take a look at something here real quick. Now, obviously, some rocking the piston to wall is fine. But if you look real close, what's happening here is as this piston comes to the top of the deck, if it's popped up like this, it's actually coming out of the bore. But it's also doing it on the bottom as well. That explains why we have marks on both the top and bottom of the piston. This is also why when you check piston to valve clearance, you want to make sure you have more than what's accounted for in case this situation happens with your pistons, because sometimes they can flutter in the bore like this, and you don't want that. Crank spin's nice, so that's a good sign. No high effort, so there's no binding there. So that's good. We're going to do the removal of the crankshaft on another episode. Today we're just going to kind of go over what I think is wrong with this engine. All right, so the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to check our bore. We should be about 4.080. We are a little tight here. Let's go down a little bit. Let's go to 4.075. Close enough. All right, so we fit there with a little bit of play. All right, so we're going to go with 4.075 on the bore. All right, now we're going to measure the piston itself. Now we're measuring at the bottom of the skirt because that's the widest part of the piston. All right, that gives us 4.069. All right. All right, so we got it all torn down. Got the rotating assembly out. I've taken some measurements. And the main reason that I've done this is the customer wants me to repair this car. And what we've decided to do is, because we had a problem with pistons coming up above the deck, we obviously had some stroke issues. Maybe the block was decked previously and nobody knew. I don't have those measurements yet. The blocks are going to go over to the machine shop now. They're going to go ahead and take all their measurements, see why this stroker had piston to valve clearance issues, even though it didn't show up when the engine was originally put together. What we're also going to do is, now that I have these out and I've measured my pistons, I know which rods we have inside this engine. I know what crank we have inside this engine. So we're going to take, and like I always like to do, when I can reuse something, I'm going to reuse it. We're going to just order pistons for this rotating assembly, have it rebalanced, and we're going to put it in a new 6.2 Hellcat block. Well, not new, it's got 20,000 miles on it. So stick around. The next couple episodes, we're going to be going into what we find wrong with all of these parts outside of what we saw today with that piston coming up above the deck. And let's rebuild, reuse, and repower.